am Deidre Quinn, and welcome to Pending and Trending, a podcast that started in real estate and grew into so much more. Here, we talk about the power of building wealth, creating opportunities, and designing a life that lasts for generations. With expert guests and real conversations, my mission is simple: to help you elevate your journey and build the legacy you deserve. Welcome back to Pending and Trending. I'm here today with Michael Dillard. He is a global leadership speaker, executive coach, and financial literacy advocate with over 20 years of leadership experience across 6 countries, positioning him as a retired U.S. diplomat and former U.S. Army veteran. He is the creator of the Lead with Impact framework: listen, empower, adapt, develop, helping organizations reduce burnout, strengthen leadership, build trust, and navigate change. Michael is also the author of Accidental Success and Build Generational Wealth, Retire Early, where he shares practical strategies for resilience, financial literacy, and upward mobility. Michael, welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And let's just really start talking about, we talked a little bit before we even started airing about financial literacy and really why don't we have financial literacy, financial education is so absent from our schools and our education throughout our lives. So if we can start there, and do you have a viewpoint on that? And how do we correct that going forward?
My viewpoint, first of all, thank you for having me on this wonderful podcast. I'm so excited to be here to be able to share with your great listeners today. The topic on personal finance is something that's near and dear to my heart because I grew up low income and then I was able to become successful later on. But to answer the question, I feel like schools, organizations, and churches, they say one thing, but they do the other. They say they want students to learn about personal finance. Churches say they want their members to learn more about personal finance, but they're not really providing the resources and tools to allow people to come in and actually teach it.
And why? Why do you think that is?
I think that they're used to doing the status quo is what I feel like. Okay, nobody else is bringing in someone to talk about how to save your money, how to invest in bonds versus stocks, teaching them the rule of 72, teaching them the difference between a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA, teaching young adults the value of opening up a child savings account while they're working at McDonald's, Applebee's, wherever they're working, showing that, look, if you start saving 20% of your income and you put it into this account and you keep doing it, it's going to create a healthy financial habit. And that in reality, if you keep doing that along your life, you probably can retire at age 45. But that's something that is not the glamorous thing to talk about.
So I agree with you 100% on that. And what can leaders, teachers, entrepreneurs, educators, coaches, how can they work together, or how can they help to educate that gap, and especially for younger professionals at this point that really can make a huge difference in their lifelong wealth? How can they change that? What can they do?
Well, one is by reading financial resources. There's several personal finance coaches and gurus out there who've actually written books, right? So it's not based upon somebody selling a product. It's actually based upon people educating large groups of people. I've written a book, Build Generational Wealth, Retire Early, which is a personal finance book, but from a fictional aspect of storytelling to teach the 5 fundamentals, which we'll talk about later on. We also have Dave Ramsey's book. We have Susie Orman. So we have some of these gurus that are in the financial literacy space that have resources available, but yet our schools and churches aren't really advocating those resources.
And what are the real world consequences of that gap that we're looking at?
Stress. A lot of people are under financial stress as prices go up every day because of inflation. Salaries are getting smaller. Family income, they're shrinking. Families are suffering. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Surprisingly, there's a stat that says that 3 out of 4 people are living paycheck to paycheck. And these are people who are making $50,000 a year. Some are making $100,000. Some are making more. So it shows you it's not about how much money you make. It's about the financial education that you have or lack of it.
So you said a couple of things when we were in our conversation just a couple of minutes ago about one thing was about the Saver program.
Yes.
Can we switch gears and kind of talk about that a little bit? And can you tell us what the 5-step Saver program is and how it can transform somebody's financial future?
Yes, from working with a lot of people who were in debt, who didn't have a future, I realized that they needed a framework. Instead of giving them general advice, they needed a 5-step proven framework. And what that means is I created the Saver program. S stands for secure your income. A stands for align your investments. V, vanquish your high interest debt. E, empower your tax savings. And R, reiterate financial literacy for your children. So I'm going to break it down and give you actual examples. A lot of times people have car insurance, they got homeowners insurance, and some people, they have insurance on their phone, but they don't have insurance on their financial income. So you have a married couple. Each spouse is making $50,000 apiece. They have 2 kids. They have 2 cars. Most families cannot afford to lose half their income. If something happens to one spouse, now they're stuck living off of $50,000 on a $100,000 budget. However, if they had life insurance, they would be protected. But most people will say, when I ask them, do you have life insurance? Yes, I have life insurance. Oh, who do you have it with? They'll say they have it with their employer if they have it. What we all know is that when you get laid off, you don't have it anymore. Something that they don't talk about is when you retire, you don't have it anymore. And then number 3, when you switch later on, it's going to cost you more money. It's cheaper to buy it when you're younger, when you're 25, 35, building a family, buy your life insurance at that point in time. Otherwise, if you're a business, are you going to charge more or less when someone is 25 years old versus when they're 75 years old for life insurance?
Of course, you're going to charge. It's so much easier to get a policy when you're younger and hopefully healthy. And yeah, and you have that lifetime ahead of you is really the way that they look at it.
And then A is align your investments. You can get free money from your employer. There's different ways of doing it. Some employers will give you a match of 50%. Some will match 100%. But regardless, it's free money. You put $100 in, they put $100 in. That is 100% return on your investment. And a lot of people don't realize that because they see that $100 that they put into their savings account for themselves is $100 that they could use to go shopping, but not realizing that you can double your money. And then when it comes to compounding interest, your money can double on average every 8 years. So that's another lesson that we can go into. But when I ask people, what are you invested in? They say, I'm invested in my 401k, but what specifically are you invested in? Bonds, stocks? What is it? Most people don't know. And that will cost you financially later on. Then V, pay off your high interest credit cards. Most credit cards are charging 24% interest. Now, I don't know if people done the math or numbers. If you make the minimum payment, it's going to take you over 27 years to pay it off. And when I'm speaking in public or giving a presentation, I like to tell people, think about this. You can have a child. Your child can graduate from high school and college by the time you pay that credit card off, making the minimum payment. Picture that for a moment.
Wow.
Wow. And we're not even talking about how much interest you're going to pay. That's another topic. Then E stands for empower your tax savings. I don't know about you, but when I go to the store and I see a 10% off coupon, and if I'm going to spend $1,000, I want that 10% coupon.
For sure.
That's the same thing that the U.S. government is providing you when it comes to a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. These are tax saving vehicles where either you pay taxes when you put the money in and then it grows tax free, or the opposite can happen. But regardless is that you're saving 10%, 20%. off your money that's meant for you for your retirement. And then the last one, the most important one, reiterate financial literacy by teaching your kids the fundamentals of personal finance. Don't have them growing up at age 40 and not knowing about life insurance, about the difference between a bond and a stock, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, IRAs. Teach them while they're young. Because there's a saying, if you have a child, picture this, you have a child, you go fishing and you fish for them and you give them the fish. They can eat for a day, right?
That's right.
But if you teach them how to fish, they can eat for a lifetime.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you tell me, let's give our listeners a couple of things that they can easily implement into their lives to teach their children how to better manage their finances, to come up with a plan, to do things bit by bit. And what are your recommendations as far as that goes?
My first recommendation is for them to read a financial literacy book such as mine or somebody else's, to build generational wealth, retire early, because it will break down the why. A lot of times young people don't understand the importance of why they have to do something today that's going to help them in the future. So when they know this is going to help me do this and achieve this, then they're more bought in. Then number two, what I would suggest is breaking down the S&P 500 and letting them know that if you buy an index fund such as the S&P 500, you are an owner of over 500 businesses. Let me repeat that again. If you buy the S&P 500, you are the owner of 500 of the top performing U.S. companies that have been around for years. You have $100, you put it in, and guess what? You own Walmart, you own Amazon, you own Bank of America, you own pharmaceuticals, you own grocery stores. You literally are an owner of these businesses. And I think a lot of times people really don't translate the fact that when you buy stock, you own a business.
I like that. That's right. So you start them at a young age, start them with an age-appropriate book, let them read the book, get the why, and then let them invest a small amount. And
then option two is have the index fund for them. And then you can say, look, what company do you want to buy stock in? They might say X company. Okay, great. Go buy 2 shares along with the index fund. And now every 6 months, open up the account so that they can see how it's performing. Because now seeing is believing.
Seeing is believing. That's right. That's right. Thank you for those tips. You mentioned another rule of 72, I think, when just a little bit ago. Can you help us understand that better?
Yes, this demo is better done in person when I have my money props and etc. But just visualize this. The rule of 72 goes like this. Actually, I'm going to pause and say Einstein said compound interest is one of the 8 wonders of the world. He who understands it earns it. And I like to replace the word it with money. So he who understands money earns money. He who doesn't pays money. And this is an example. The rule of 72 works like this. You take 72 divided by the average rate of return of your investment. Okay, we have a bond. A bond gives you an average rate of return of 3%. So we take 72 divided by 3 equals the number of years it takes for your money to double. So imagine this is $1,000 iPhone, so it's $1,000, okay? So now you put $1,000 into your bond, you take 72 divided by 3, you get 24 years. So in 24 years, your $1,000 will double to be worth $2,000. Okay. Now, Michael, you keep talking about the S&P 500. Why are you bragging on the S&P 500? Let me tell you. The S&P 500 has an average annual return of 9%. You say 9% versus 3? What's the big deal? Okay, pay attention for the magic of compounding interest. You take 72 divided by 9 equals 8. So that means that your money, your $1,000 is going to double in 8 years. So remember, the bond is going to double in 24 years.
Right.
The S&P 500 is going to double in 8 years. That means that 8 years, your 1,000 became 2. 8 years later, 2 became 4. 8 years later, 4 became 8. So would you rather have $8,000 after 24 years or $2,000 after 24 years?
I think it's pretty easy that all of our listeners would go with the in 8 years, right? Instead of absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. But if you look at consumer behavior and you look at their 401k accounts, they're choosing different financial investments that have a shorter or longer time for it to mature, put it
Right.
like that.
Right. So let's talk about how you can shift somebody's mindset. And your story was great. And how can you help people implement that? And how can you get people to take action on it?
People have to feel the pain, be honest with you. So they need to have somebody in front of them answering all the questions and giving them a demo of the pros and cons of their financial decisions. Because right now it's fake. But if we were to become more explicit and we say, okay, you're married. What happens if, God forbid, something happened to your spouse tomorrow? Can you afford to take care of your household for the next 20 years, like literally for the next 20 years with the money that you have?
Yeah.
Most people say they can't. So if you can't afford it, then how come you don't have life insurance?
Scary, right?
Yeah. Then, okay, you're going to work until what age you want to retire? Age 65, 70? So security is not going to be enough to sustain you. So what are you doing today to help you get to a number that's going to allow you to retire at age 70, 72? People aren't doing the math. They're not doing the calculations because there's nobody in front of them to show them. And what I believe is needed is that people need to attend more financial workshops that are education based, not sales based, but education based, that's going to explain the difference between term life versus whole life, explain the difference between a bond versus stock, and etc.
I agree. What does it mean to lead? We'll talk about a little bit about the lead framework that we've talked
Yes.
about previously. And what does it mean to lead with impact?
What it means to lead with impact is that from over 15 years of traveling overseas, I just retired as a U.S. diplomat. I have developed leadership skills that have allowed me to overcome burnout. At one point, I was burnt out from managing so many tasks, managing large groups of people across several continents. So I developed a tool called Lead with Impact to help leaders get their time back. Instead of working 50 hours a week, they can work 40 hours a week and accomplish the same work. And that's done by
Okay.
L, listen, listen with empathy. E, empower the right employees. A, adapt to changing environments. And D, develop other leaders. I'll give you an example. If you are a leader listening right now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and talk to 2 of your staff and ask them, what are they going to do for the weekend? That's it. Now, first thing Monday morning, go and follow up and ask them first thing in the morning. Don't wait till later on. Ask them, how was the weekend? How was that softball event? How was the barbecue they were going to? How was the game? That's it. What that is showing is that now you're listening with empathy, and now you're building trust with your team. That's one example of how to listen with empathy. The other example I give is for leaders. They always say, I can't empower people, I can't delegate, they don't get the job done. Probably because you delegated the task to the wrong person. So here's homework I want to give a leader that's listening. On a piece of paper, I want you to write down from 0 to 10 going up, write down motivation on the left-hand side. Then on the bottom from 0 to 10 going across horizontally, I want you to write down technical proficiency, okay? So now take each team member and grade them on a scale from 0 to 10. You'll have an employee that's so motivated that they're a 7 in motivation. But in their technical proficiency, because they're new, they're a 3. You cannot empower that person. You can't delegate tasks to that person because they're not ready yet. But the employee who's a 7 in motivation and a 7 in technical proficiency, they're going to be in the upper right-hand quadrant. That is the employee that you can start empowering more and more tasks, which will give you more time to take care of the bigger projects in your office. So that's just a snippet of how it works.
Wow, that's great. Love that. So, what are some of the blind spots that you see in leadership today while we're on the leadership path here?
The major blind spot I see with leaders is that they don't pause to breathe. They literally get up in the morning on Monday, charge at 100%, take your phone, right? The phone is charged at 100%. Mm-hmm. But if you don't charge your phone, when it flashes red at 20%, what happens? Power's off. A leader starts the day on a Monday 100% charge. Soon as they hit the front door, they are faced with an urgent task. Now their mental battery drains down to 80%. They're in back-to-back meetings, they're drained down to 50%. And then when they're at their desk, they get a direct message, hey, can you hurry up and prove this or respond to this email? They're flashing red at 10%, and it's not even 11 a.m. And so they're reaching for that cup of coffee because they are drained, mentally burnt out. So the advice I always give is that leaders, you need to take micro breaks. You need to protect your calendar. So around 10 in the morning, put a 15-minute break in there, schedule it so nobody can schedule over top of it. Drink you some water, get hydrated so that your mind can focus. Take a walk, read a book, listen to music, close the door. You need to recharge your mental battery just like this cell phone needs to charge up. If you don't charge your mindset, you will burn out, and your team knows it. Productivity is going down. By 2 p.m., everybody sees that your battery is at 5%. Team morale goes down, productivity goes down, and then eventually people start to quit.
Wow, that is so true. And really, if you think about it, we hear all of these things on I'm a huge time blocker, right? So we hear all these things on blocking your time. And what you're saying is block your time, but block time for everything, right? So block time to have your exercise walk or your mental walk or whatever that is, and time block your micro breaks so that you can actually just shut it down for a short period of time so that you continuously recharge, just like your cell phone needs to be recharged after you've been using it for so much.
Exactly.
I love that. That's great. What would you say to is there anything that you want to share with our listeners regarding to tie up the leadership aspect, and any advice other than what you've already said that they can really make another small change to really affect their life big?
Yes. Think of another thing that they can do this quick and that is very impactful is think of one process, requirement, routine that you can eliminate. You might say, I don't know what I can eliminate. We need everything. Okay, my challenge to you then is schedule a meeting with everybody on your team and ask them, what's one thing we can take away today? Or send an email to each person individually. Or meet with them one-on-one. Just see what's the common thread upon one process, one report that can be eliminated, and do that.
I like that. That's great. Very good. I'll be sharing that with my team.
Wonderful. Hey, bring me in. Hey, let's do a lunch and learn with the team. Bring me
There
in.
you
I'm
go.
here to help.
There you go. That would be great. Now switch back gears from take off the leadership hat, or just go back to the financial aspect, and really let's focus on what the one or two things our listeners can do right now, change it today to make a big impact down the road.
Okay, here are the biggest things is financial literacy is the new currency. Financial literacy is the new currency. You need to understand the basic fundamentals. If you can't hire a coach, you don't have time to read a book, and you just want somebody to tell you what to do, here are the two things that you need to do right now. Go out there and buy life insurance like you buy car insurance. Buy life insurance like you buy your cell phone service. You don't keep all of it with your employer. You can keep the policy that you have with your employer, but buy one outside of your employer. Because trust me, at some point in time, you might get laid off. You might quit. You might decide you want to start a new business. When you retire from that company, you no longer have a policy. And now you're going to be stuck. Instead of paying $200 a month, you're going to be paying $600 a month for that insurance that you could have bought 10 years ago. So that's number one. Number two, most importantly, put money in your 401k, whatever match. Some employers are just saying, here's $500 per month or here's $200. Take that money and invest it. Research your financial options. In the book, I like to talk about the S&P 500. It's been around for years. Warren Buffett even says if something happens to him, he's telling his family members to put the money in the S&P 500. Do you know Warren Buffett actually puts $1 million bets on the line that a lot of financial gurus cannot beat and perform better than the S&P 500? Go and research it. Warren Buffett is, I want to say he's undefeated, but I'll say maybe one person has actually outperformed the S&P 500 amongst some of these financial gurus that he has a bet with. So those are the two things. And then, of course, number three is a bonus. Send me a DM. Go to my website. I will provide you a quick 30-minute financial consultation to get you on the right path, because I really believe financial literacy is the new currency.
So I love that. Thank you so much for offering that to our listeners. And just to reiterate that, Michael Dillard will be offering an exclusive opportunity for the first 2 listeners who DM after the show. They will receive 2 free coaching calls on financial clarity and leadership growth. That's huge. That's huge. I hope everybody is listening and takes advantage of that. How our listeners can find you on Facebook, Michael Dillard, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well, right?
That is correct. You can go to michaeldillardspeaks.com. You can find me there, or if you go to Linktree/Michael Dillard, you can find me there. Search YouTube. I'm starting to get known on some of these social media platforms. Hey, reach
That's
out.
great.
Love to connect. And if you learn something from this show, just say, hey, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. Make sure you like and comment this podcast, because listeners, the more you like, the more you share, the more information like this can spread.
That's so true. Thank you so much for being with us. What a masterclass from Michael Dillard on leadership, legacy, and wealth building. If you are ready to stop chasing quick wins and start building true financial freedom, follow Michael using those links. And if this episode lit a spark for you, share it with a friend who's on their wealth building journey, because when we share knowledge, we multiply opportunity. Thanks for listening. I'm Deidre Quinn, and this is Pending and Trending, where your journey meets your breakthrough. Thanks for tuning in to Pending and Trending. Remember, generational wealth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by action. If you like today's episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and let's keep elevating your journey together.